Hello and welcome back to Halo Reach. In today's video I'll be sharing 5 tips on how to get better at Halo Reach multiplayer. So from these tips you'll be getting better kill to death ratios and get more wins. These can apply to anyone, but it's especially for the new players who need to adapt their play style and learn the game a bit more. So let's get right into it. So the first step I'm going to share is to learn the map's arsenal, meaning knowing where all the good weapons and vehicles are and using them when you have the opportunity to do so. Too many times in the Halo I'll die in a 1v1 situation against someone who has something like a rocket launcher when I only have a DMR. And I'm right to say that I couldn't really do much in that situation to defend myself because the weapon that the other player has is so much better. But you need to beat them to get that better weapon minutes before your interaction with the enemy player. So if you're in the area of a really good weapon like a sniper or a rocket launcher, go check if it's there, because when you start using it you get lots of kills. But you need to learn the spawns of these weapons. A good way to figure it out is noticing a player that has that particular weapon and whereabouts in the map they are, because that sniper or rocket launcher they picked up could have been picked up like 10 seconds ago. But upon finding it, make sure you remember that location and occasionally keep going back when you have the opportunity, as using the weapon will get you way more kills than just having your DMR. As well, don't be afraid to pick them up if you're a bit of a new player. The whole learning process of getting good with weapons is to practice and use them enough. That goes as well for vehicles, as you can pick up plenty of kills with most vehicles. So when the game starts, keep in mind where these weapons are, so when you just spawn you could go there, pick the weapon up to kill plenty of enemies right from the start of the game. So I'll give you a bit of an example of a bit of weapon location knowledge. On the map Tempest, the map is actually mirrored, so it's balanced on each side. So the plasma pistol and the rocket launcher can be found on the back left corners where the boosters are, as well as 2 snipers being on the wings of the map, as well as a needler and a warthog at both bases. So when spawning, or if you're in that sort of area, you know where to find good weapons. To tie in with the vehicles, they're more obvious to find, but make sure you use them. Go for the Scorpions, Wraiths, Warthogs, Revenants, Banshees. Don't pass them down unless you feel like it's not necessary to the map. But yeah, don't turn down those higher tier vehicles because they improve people's games so much. Some people end up with like 30 kills to like 2 deaths just from sitting in a Scorpion all game. And again, just because you're a new player, don't turn it down, because you need to use it enough to get enough practice for getting good with that specific vehicle. So for number 2, make sure you play with the team. Being a one-man army really doesn't work in Halo. When you're on your own running through the map, there have been many times where 2, 3 or even 4 players can come around the corner and kill you so quickly. But when you group up with your team, you will kill enemies so quickly. I know that you won't always get the kill, but you might get the assist, or at least you're not the one dying. I find this definitely more important when you're playing a game mode like Capture the Flag. It's really difficult to go for the flag when you're on your own, but in that situation I do something that I call hold up play. This is when you're in the enemy's half but you're on your own, making you have no chance of going for the objective. However, while you're in that situation, wait for your team and also support the team while they move upwards. And when you go for the flag, it's far more possible, as there'll be more players going for that one specific objective. I remember the first week or so when playing Halo MCC when it just came out on the PC. I was a bit of a noob back then, as I hadn't played the game in years, and what I used to do is just rush into the objective too much. But that's the wrong thing you can do, as you're just going to get killed, wasting your time and doing nothing for the team. Even if your team isn't very good, you can still depend on them to give support fire, helping you kill enemies and open up for you to go for these objectives. As well as that, certain vehicles promote team play. These are the Warthog and the Falcon, which are both vehicles that are extremely useful. But yeah, try and stick with the team. If you're on your own, essentially you're much more likely to die. So tip number 3 is to be stealthy when necessary. There are definitely times in the Halo where you're practically stuck in a situation on your own with like 3 enemies around you. This situation only feels like one thing that could happen, and it's you dying. Well, unless you're well hidden and off the radar, or just chances go that you're able to boss it. However, when you stop moving or crouch walking, you're off the radar, making it harder for the enemy to spot you. Then while you're off the radar and the enemy didn't notice you, then while you're off the radar, the enemy won't notice you. Most likely they will just run past you. When the coast is clear, you could carry on or just be an absolute ninja and just one hit them in the back. This is useful as this is essentially one less death, and you don't have to start back at the spawn, potentially losing good weapons as well. So that's quite a good scenario to be stealthy in. But for this next scenario, the best way to describe it is on a game of Capture the Flag, which happened the other week on the map Tempest. It was the last 2 minutes of the game with no flags captured for both teams. And I was way up the other side of that enemy base on my own. The enemy was sort of littered around the map, some being in their base, but while crouching and being stealthy, I took the flag and just hid behind a cliff. They had no idea where the flag went, so they couldn't track me, especially while I wasn't on the radar. 20 seconds later, I made a break for it. I got the flag way into our half before dying. However, it was close enough for the flag to go back to our base, winning the game. I got called a god for it, so I'll take that. But that's just one of few ways where stealth can really be helpful. And during that scenario, I literally didn't shoot once throughout the flag capture, and it pays off so well. When it's the right moment, stealth can be very useful. Because in a game like Halo, you wouldn't really think to, get hidden, get stealthy and stuff, in a game where you're practically jumping around. Tip number 4 is simple enough, but it's to use your radar. It's definitely the most useful overlay on your HUD, as your radar practically acts as your third eye, as your radar allows to see enemies all around you, and it's quite forgiving to the distance you can see. Make it a habit to keep looking at it, as too many people have tunnel vision to the middle of the screen, which is just looking forward, allowing players to sneak up behind and insta-killing them. Also, it lets the player know if enemies are above or below you. Looking at your radar is the most vigilant way of playing without having to look around you. I think that most situations of going into combat will require you to be looking at the radar at some point. The radar does let you down against people who are stealthy, which is why the previous tip is so important, and the reason why I put it in this video is because it's more essential than most people think. There's been too many times where I play Halo where I feel like no one on my team is looking at their radar. And tip number 5 is a very basic and simple tip to think of, but it's just to practice the game. With every skill to learn, you just have to practice. With aim, using different weapons, driving vehicles, etc. You all just need practice. With practice, you're always learning the game more and more and getting much better. However, some people do get to a point where they stop learning because they're not properly engaged in the game. I believe people call this autopilot, and that's when people just don't engage enough to do well at the game, and also not learning while playing, so you're not getting any better. So maybe if you're getting in that mode, have a break, come back feeling more engaged. As well, some people start getting too confident in themselves, thinking that they're at a level where they don't need to learn the game as much, but in reality they're probably not a very good player, and blaming his poor plays on other teammates or the game itself. This will probably leave them raging, and obviously you don't want to do that. So make sure while you're getting good, look back at how you've improved, but also think about how you can still be better, as there's always room for improvement with everything. But that's everything for this video. I didn't want to do any more than 5 tips, as I feel like these are the main tips I use for myself, and any more will start watering down the next point. However, if this video was helpful, leave a like, and while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe. It's free to do so, so why not? It helps me and the channel out greatly, and I highly appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next video.